Welcome back to Winders Model Farms. Today I'm going to be building an 8-row corn head and a 16-row corn head for Ertl combines. I've been meaning to do this video for a really long time. It's just one of those things I just haven't got around to doing it, and I want to video it when I do. So I've built these over a year ago, and you've probably seen them in some other videos if you watch our channel much. And what I did was I took two 12-row John Deere heads and I lopped off the end and made an 8-row and then put it on to this to make a 16-row. And what this did, you don't waste any header doing this. You get all your rows. You get 24 rows in this setup versus two 12s. So you don't waste anything. You can still, if you use two, you have to have two combines. If you buy two combines and get two headers, you can still run two headers on two combines. But the reason I would like to do this is because some of the Ertl combines you get are pretty small to be running a 12-row head, and it's more common to see those running an 8. And then some are pretty big, and it's more common to see them running a 16-row head instead of a 12. So that's what I want to do. But today I'm actually going to be doing this with New Holland headers. It's the same process. If you can do it to the New Hollands, you can do it to the Deeres, you can do it to the cases. So it's the same process, and I just need a 16-row and an 8-row New Holland header. So I'm going to show y'all with these instead of the Deere heads. And the reason is because like this CR960 I have, you probably wouldn't actually see this. You'd probably see more of these running an 8-row head than a 12-row head in real life, especially with this tire setup that originally comes with from Ertl. It's probably not going to be running a 12-row head, this small of a combine. And so I want an 8-row head. And then I've got some CR990 Prestige combine, and it comes with a folding 12, which is realistic, but I also want to have a 16-row header I could use for it. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. First off, I want to say before I start this is be safe. This can be dangerous, so obviously be safe, or if you need your parents' help or something, do that. Don't get yourself hurt. So the idea behind this is we're going to lop off this outer snout right here on both sides, because this is going to be our 16. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to count 1, 2, 3. This will be 4, and we're going to lop off those outer 3, and those 3 are going to go on the end of here, and this end is going to go on here, and so this one will be our 8. And just a mistake I made the first time I built this is I built the 8-row first before I realized I can make a 16, and so I lopped off the ends of the 8-row, and then I counted in and lopped off the other 2, and then I just put the ends back on. And then I was sitting there thinking, wait a second, I can make a 16 row, so I lopped off the ends of this and put the other one on, glued it on, then glued the ends back on. So what that caused is that I had to do extra work. So I had to glue here and here. But the way I'm going to do this today, you're only going to have to glue one spot on the 16-row header, because all these will still be connected. So there'll just be a glue point here, or 2 spots, I guess. Glue point here and here. So you'll glue 2 spots instead of 4. And like, these aren't perfect, but I think they do look good. Especially the 8 rows look pretty good. You've only got 2 glue spots, and they're right by the end. And they're not going to be perfect, but I'm just trying to get them close enough where from a distance they look decent. And I do have New Holland paint, so you're going to want to make sure you have paint for the headers when you do this, because you will have to paint. So I'm going to cut this, but I'm going to have to stop the camera so I can be safe about it. So I just lopped off the first end, and just like that. And like I said, you can see it's not exactly perfect. We'll kind of fix the cosmetics once we're gluing it. So I might have to sand down a little there, or build this side up a little with some glue whenever I'm gluing it. But we'll fix all that later. You just want to try to get it as straight as you can down that seam. And then this is going to be the harder part to cut through. And that's where sometimes it gets a little squirrely, but this is the easier part to fix at the end. So now I'm going to cut the other side. So now I got both ends cut off this one, and like you can see, not perfect, but it's going to be pretty close. So now onto the combine header that's going to be, onto the corn header that's going to be our 8-row. We're going to cut off the end 3. So we're going to cut in this slot here. So that way we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'll add those other 2 on the outside to give us our 8. So it'll look like that. So we'll cut right through here. And like, it definitely helps to have something sharp when you're cutting. I'm using an X-Acto, but you just gotta be careful. But the sharper your tool, the easier it is. All right, so now I've cut the end off, and as you can see, just kind of a dry fit. It's not gonna be perfect, and this is where it's gonna take some time doing some sanding, doing a little bit of work to size those up. But that's gonna make your 16. Then you'll take these ends, and that'll make your 8-row head there. So that's a basic concept, but now I'm going to do a little sanding and stuff like that. So I kind of just have them sitting here dry fitted, and you can see there's a few little gaps on it. But in my opinion, when I do this, I'd rather have a few little gaps than to have it too much material and it just be too wide, because I can fill the gaps in once I'm gluing it with the glue and material, but I can't, if it's too wide, there's nothing you can do about it once you glue it. So that's why I'd rather have a little bit of a gap every now and then that I can fill in with the glue, because once I fill it in with that glue, I'm going to paint over it and it'll just kind of blend back in. So now what I'm going to do is start to glue it. So what I do is, when I'm gluing it, is I try to get it where I want it, put a drop of super glue on it, get the super glue to take, and once I get in that position, then I'm going to go back and kind of build it up with a heavier duty glue. But I just need the super glue to keep it in place while I'm working with it. And that could always be taken off and redone if you didn't like how it positioned, turned out, or something like that. But that's why I start with super glue, just enough to hold it. I set it, and then I go on from there to fill it in with some other glue, which I'll show you in a second, and build it up. So I'm going to be using this so I don't glue my my header to the display. That'd be bad. So once you get it set, you're going to want to just tack it in with super glue and let that dry. Got to kind of figure out how I want it, and then this is what's going to take a little bit of time. So what I ended up doing, because this glue wasn't drying fast enough, I've got some faster drying glue at my house and I forgot to bring it, is I put this little piece of balsa wood underneath it in the area like this, and to kind of hold that in place, and then I'm going to cut it and do the same thing over here. But right now I just got to give it a couple minutes to dry. Alright, so now that the super glue is dried, what I'm trying to do is fill in the gaps. I use this stuff, you can get it at Walmart, because it takes a little bit to cure, but it's pretty strong, and then it also fills in the gaps pretty well. So what I'm going to do is, I normally put it on from the bottom, because that doesn't have to look as pretty, but I'll get it in there, and I'm not too worried about having some excess, because I can cut it off once it dries, but I'll just use a little stick and kind of scrape it smooth, and then use this to kind of get it up into the gaps of where I need it. And a lot of this too will look a lot better once it's painted. Kind of helps blend that glue in with the header as well. But I'm gonna gonna kind of try to get some down in there too, to just kind of fill that gap in. Anyways, I'm gonna do that to both sides, and then we'll come back for the 16 row header. All right, so I'm back here again with these New Holland headers. Believe it or not, the first part of this video was made a long time ago. And that is partially because I was not thinking when I started that it was way too cold outside to paint anything effectively, and I don't have a place to paint indoors, so I have to paint everything outside. So yeah, so this has just kind of been sitting here waiting on a paint job. So today I'm going to finally paint it. I'm just going to paint all over the whole thing. The silver tips on here, I actually painted those on a long time ago, back when these were 12 row heads. So I can easily paint those back on. So I'm just going to paint over that. What I can't do is lose this New Holland decal, because that is not a sticker. The old ones were a sticker, so you could take it off, paint, and then put the sticker back on, but that's like printed on there. So what I'm going to do is try to put a little piece of tape over it. Hopefully the tape doesn't pull that off. We'll see. Then once I paint it, I can repaint that part black if I want to, and then I'm actually going to add like the flashers, paint the flashers and everything. So I'm just going to take some tape and just put that over that little spot. And like I said, I hope it doesn't pull the decal off. We'll have to see though. I'll test it on this one. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of tape, a little bit bigger than that, and get it on there. Make sure it's on real nice and tight. I don't want paint getting on my New Holland decal. Alright, so I put probably 3 coats on the top here and 2 coats on the bottom. I'm not as worried about the bottom, but I still think it looks good to have it painted. I still want to go back and paint the tips, but first let's remove the paint and see how our decals look. Alright, there we go. So that worked out really good. You can still see the decal really well. And then like I said, I'm going to just paint over that part black. So I think this is going to work out well. Yeah, that one turned out good too. Nice. And there we go. So those all turned out good. Now I just need to do some detail painting on the flashers. Then I'm going to paint the tips of those. I've got some just gray paint, and then I'm just going to touch up the tips on each of these. I think that just really makes it pop. Okay, so this is kind of what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to do the 16 row. Alright, so here it is. Finished painting them. As you can see, I did the tips there. I hit this with the New Holland yellow. Got the tape off so the decals show. I repainted black right here. And I even added the orange up here, so they originally didn't have that. And as you can see, if you look close, like in some spots, you can see the glue and see how it's not perfect, especially on the back there. That's the bottom. Here's the 8 row. And so you can see it's not perfect when you look real close, but from a distance, they look pretty solid. Let me throw them on a combine. So here's the 16 row on a combine. Looks pretty nice. Since I don't make a 16 row New Holland, I think it's cool to make one. Looks good. Auger still clears it. Plenty of room. So no problem with that for this just a solid looking piece to have, and you know, something that not everyone's gonna have. And then here's a little CR 960. It looks pretty good with an 8-row head, especially since this one's got singles. I'm gonna put duals on this machine. I've already extended the platform. I just haven't bought the duals yet, but even with the duals on there, it'll fit nice behind that 8-row header. This is pretty common. I feel like 8-row headers are really common still around here. So I'd like to see more toys with some 8-row headers, but you know, you can always make them. I might make another one for, I think we might be making in the future at least another set like this, make a set of each of New Holland, and I think I'm going to do a case set as well. But those are the headers. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something from this little video, learned how to do it, or if you didn't, at least maybe you enjoyed watching it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and have a good day.